Hey, what up, guys? So, a couple weeks ago, I decided to take a spontaneous trip down to Seattle and do some game hunting. And as always, I hit up all the Pink Gorillas and some of my other favorite stores, but primarily just did game hunting in Pink Gorilla because they had a lot of really great games to pick up. And I can't wait to share my pickups at the end of this video, so stay tuned because this is another great episode of the Retro Rebuild where I am rebuilding my video game collection. And right now, I am primarily focusing on picking up JRPGs. It is my favorite genre. I'm also picking up some action adventure games, as well as some like shoot 'em ups and like the anime style fighting games. Those are my favorite games to collect right now. I also did do a recent trade. I am curating my collection just a little bit to get some games that I really want, and I'll be sharing what games I picked up from those trades at the end, as well as my Seattle pickups, so stay tuned for that. And if you guys enjoy this video, please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And man, this was probably one of the best Seattle game hunting trips that I went on. I picked up way more games than I expected to find. A lot of PS4 games. There was quite a few that were on my wish list that I was able to knock off with this trip, and I also kind of broke my rule of not buying any modern games, just like disc only. I ended up finding one PS4 game that I wanted to play, and it was for a really cheap price, so really happy about that. Now, unlike my last few solo Seattle game trips, I also ended up going to the Capitol Hill Pink Gorilla store by myself, which was a bit of a trip. So down in Seattle, they have these electric scooters that you are able to pay for and use, and so I took one of those to get my way to the Capitol Hill store, and I ended up going way further in both directions than I needed to be. I completely forgot where Pink Gorilla was located in Capitol Hill, so that was a bit of a fun trip. But I'm really glad I went there. They had a bunch of games that I was looking for, and they even had a DS game there, and it was loose. It was cartridge only, but it was a game I never even heard of. They also had a PS2 game I was looking for, and so many other great things. There were so many games down there, as well as some other things that I was into, like anime figures and model kits and anime on DVDs. I'm trying to collect some anime on DVD. I did end up finding one that I have never even heard of, so I was really happy to find that at Hi-Fi Lo-Fi. Now, I'm not sharing any non-gaming pickups in this series, so I might do something in the future where I show off some of my anime stuff that I got in my collection. So yeah, this was a really great Seattle game hunting trip, and I can't wait for my next one. I always enjoy hitting up all of these game stores. There's a few others in the Seattle area that I have yet to check out. It's been a long time since I've been to Game Gurus, which is also down there in Seattle, and then there's a place called Reloved Gaming or Reloved Games that's located in Seattle, and I haven't checked that store out yet, so one of these days I will have to go down there for the Retro Rebuild series and do some game hunting at those stores. And I also hit up Owl's Music and Games that's located in the University District, and I ended up finding a very nice, complete and copied DS Grail game that I've been looking for the last couple years. Ever since I got back into collecting for the DS and 3DS. So really happy to knock that off my list. And it was a really gorgeous day, and really glad I went down to Seattle instead of going anywhere else, because my original plan was to hit up another castle out in Edmonds and also hang out at the arcade that they have there. But then just something in me just wanted to go down to Seattle instead. And like I just said, I did not regret that decision whatsoever. Pink Gorilla was stacked with so many great games, so many cheap games that were on my wish list. I probably spent way more than I should have, but again, I don't regret it. So I cannot wait to share my pickups. So let's dive into the pickups that I got. I mentioned that I found a DS game that I never heard of at the Capitol Hill Pink Gorilla store, and that is Freedom Wings here on the DS. This is a flight simulation / RPG game from Natsume and Nintendo. Found this for like $10, which wasn't a bad price. And as soon as I looked it up what type of game it was, and I saw that it was an RPG / flight simulator. Now, I'm not really too big into flight simulators, but I love RPGs. So I'm willing to give this game a proper playthrough at some point. I haven't gotten around to playing it yet, so I will eventually get to it. There's a couple other games that are on my backlog for the DS that I'm trying to get through. And then I ended up finding Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy. I can't remember which location I got this from. I think it was the University District. This was another game that was like $10, so I picked it up. There was another Final Fantasy game that I got loose there. If I can... Oh, here it is. And this is one that I've been looking for quite some time, and that is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Rings of Fate. There's another Crystal Chronicles game, Echoes of Time, that I'm also looking to add to my collection. And these games I am planning on finding at least a case with artwork for them, so I can have them close to CIB. It would be nice to get the manuals for them as well, but I'm really happy to add these 3 games in my handheld collection. And then the other DS game that I found I got at Owl's Music and Games, and that is From the Abyss. This is a roguelite action RPG where you create your own character and you go through randomly generated dungeons and fight enemies and level up, and that's pretty much all I know about this game. I did hear from a close friend of mine that it's a really great game and a bit of a hidden gem on the DS. So that sold me even more when I heard about that, and I knew I had to get it because it is super clean. I want to say this is mint, or at least near mint, but it is CIB with the manual, and the manual's in really great condition as well, and so is the game, so I'm really happy to have this. One thing I did notice while I was down there is that there was a lot of Etrian Odyssey games at Pink Gorilla in the U District, as well as Owls, and I was tempted to get one of them, but then I saw From the Abyss at Owls, and I just knew I had excuse me there. I knew I just had to get it. Don't know where that came from, but yeah, From the Abyss, so happy to have this. I've seen the Etrian Odyssey games around, so I can always get them anytime. But this game is one that, this is the only time I've seen this game in public, was when I went to Seattle a couple weeks ago. So, really happy to have that. And then I got a bunch of PS4 games that I'll just rapid fire here through, because most of them I've had in my collection. Well, actually, pretty much all of these I've had in my collection before. Starting with Star Ocean, The Divine Force, Tales of Vesperia Definitive Edition, Valkyria Chronicles Remastered, Sakura Wars, and Warborn, which this is a really fun tactical mech game, and this is definitely a underrated gem on the PlayStation 4. I had this several years ago, and I really enjoyed it. I don't recall if I ever beat the game or not. I don't think I did. I did play it for a few hours at least, but I cannot wait to get back into this. I am playing more tactical games, and Warborn was one that I really wanted to get ever since I remembered that that game exists, so I was really happy to find that. Now, as for the two other loose games that I got a copy of Artanelto Melody of Alimia and Uncharted The Lost Legacy. Now, this is, besides the Vita game Golden Abyss, this is the only other Uncharted game that I have yet to play through, so I'm super excited to dive into that. And then I picked up one of my favorite Ys games, because I currently do not own a Ys game physically in my collection, and this is Ys Memories of Celceta on the PlayStation Vita, and I'm currently playing through this game again, because it's been several years since I first played this, and this was the first game in the series that I got into, and I am really enjoying my second playthrough of the game. I do remember that the boss fights in that game were some of my favorites. And then I picked up another PS2 game, and this is Art the Lad, End of Darkness. This is an action RPG, and the last of the Art the Lad games, as far as I know. I'm not sure if there was a mobile game or not that came out after this, but this game, I'm going to try and give it a second chance. I tried getting into it a few years ago, and there was just, it had a very slow start, and it kind of turned me off. But who knows, this could end up being a really great game, and I just didn't give it a proper chance, so I ended up picking it up because I am willing to give it another shot. And those are all my Seattle pickups, but I have plenty more pickups to show you guys. So let's move on to that. With a whole bunch of other games that I got. Now, most of these I did get from Next Level. I ended up trading in some games recently to kind of downsize some of the games in my backlog that I just wasn't really going to be getting to anytime soon. And that's also kind of part of what the retro rebuild is. I will end up picking up games that eventually down the line I decided I'm not really going to keep in my collection, because I want to build this collection to be a really great collection. Nothing too huge, but full of really great games. And I feel like the games that I traded away allowed me to get some games that I know I truly want in my collection forever. And one of them is Evergrace. This is another game that I'm willing to give another shot. Just like with Art the Lad, End of Darkness, I didn't really give myself a chance to really get into it before I ended up getting rid of it in my collection a few years ago. But I'm happy to find this really nice, clean copy from Next Level. And it is CIB, and It was originally in a generic DVD case, but I swapped it out for an OEM PS2 case because I'm very picky about that when it comes to PS2 games. Now, a couple of eBay purchases that I wanted to show off in the last episode, but they showed up like a day or two after I filmed that episode, and that is Chain Chronicle V, which is a port of a mobile tower defense RPG that does have an anime attached to it that I am watching. And I really wanted to check this out. Now, I'm not really too big into mobile game RPGs, but the anime is really great, and this is a game that I don't really think a whole lot of people have heard of, and it only came out in Japan, and I was able to find it for a good price off of eBay, as well as Luminous Arc Infinity. I am going for every single Luminous Arc game, so I had to have this, and now I just need the first game and the third game, which the third game is the only other Japanese-only game in the series. And another eBay purchase, Metal Max Xeno Reborn. This also showed up after the last episode got filmed, so I wasn't able to completely show it off, but I think I did mention it. Yeah, this game, I believe, plays a little bit like the Xenoblade Chronicles games, and I did hear that there is going to be a new Metal Max game at some point in the future, because Cygames have picked up the IP from Kadokawa Games. So hopefully it will be a really great game, because I know Grand Blue Fantasy Relink was a really great console RPG that was put out by them. So I cannot wait to dive into this. And then I got a couple games from GameStop. Got Redout Lightspeed Edition, as well as Final Fantasy Type 0 HD, which I've had multiple times in my collection, but I never got around to playing it. I know that sounds stupid, but I ended up finding this for under $10, so I had to pick it up. And this I found for like $5. And it was a recommendation from Metal Jesus, so I'm really happy to play this. And then the last PS4 game that I recently picked up, Uncharted 4: Thief's End. This is my favorite in the entire Uncharted series. And I really do hope that we get an Uncharted 5, or like maybe even a soft reboot of the series, or whatever. I would love another Uncharted game after this. And then I got a bunch of PS5 games here. Got Wild Hearts, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, Final Fantasy Tactics The Ivalice Chronicles, Crisis Core Final Fantasy VII Reunion, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, and lastly, Valkyrie Elysium. Another game that I want to give it another shot. I made it all the way to the final boss the first time I played through this game, and I ended up giving up on the game because the final boss was just a bit difficult, and I didn't really feel like grinding to strengthen up all of the Einherjar that I had, as well as the main Valkyrie herself. But I may end up having to do that in order to beat the game. And yeah, super happy to have all of these games added to my collection. It is a lot, just like with the last episode. This is a lot to add into my collection. Well over 20 games, maybe even close to 30 at this point. So that's going to be it for the pickups. And that is it. Another great episode to the Retro Rebuild in the books. Hope you guys enjoyed me sharing off all my pickups, and as well as doing some game hunting in Seattle. I wanted to do more game hunting videos for the series, and I delivered, and I'm going to keep on delivering. I'm going to make sure to do more game hunting in the future and show off what I find with you guys, as well as adding some great games to my collection to try and build it up to my dream collection, which is the end goal for this series. So with that, I'm Mecha Otaku Gamer, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.